Yeah,
We
so
can both be not prepared.
this will be casual chat with me, known as the Don Don Cryptonium, and Kevin Garrison from Oni Validator. And maybe we are going to give just a few minutes just to announce that we are live right now,
Yeah,
so people can know.
I think
Yeah,
I sent out a message on it, so hopefully we
let
get a
me.
few folks tuning in. I'm glad we're finally able to do this, man. I know it's been some time trying to make it work, but and I want to just start things off by saying congratulations on making it into the Juno Validator set and Cosmos Hub, which are both very, very difficult chains to get into. So congratulations. Very happy to have you.
I'm glad you agreed to come. I did try for a while. I messaged you for a while. I was ghosted, but I guess you were just busy. And not ghosted because you were not even like responding. Like I was in public wall, Twitter wall saying, "Hey, send you DM." No response, no nothing. But the thank you, and the fact that I did try as the validator was hugely because of you. Like I had this thought before, but seeing you like coming out of nowhere, I don't know if you were out of nowhere, but suddenly you appeared
Yeah.
and shoot up in the ranks, with just great marketing. I think you did. And of course, the getting the good connections, because that's also important, right? And I was like, I'm gonna try. um I still I was checking. You have way more delegators than me. I have like few, but just like, there were fortunate to help me. But before we get to crypto, like I'm doing this often because I like to learn about the person.
Hmm.
And you are quite the maybe unusual guy in the crypto space and in the cosmos space. I don't think you are a developer, you are creative.
Hmm.
I think that's the fair to call you. I consider myself creative, and you're a cinematographer. So first of all, how did you get to cinematography?
Yeah. So the co-founder of Oni, his name's Richard. People have probably seen him around on Twitter as well. And in the latter part of last year, I was filming a bunch of commercials around the world, and um, Richard kept messaging our. We have a very like close group of friends that shoot these films and stuff. So, and Richard's been a big part of that. Like he and I traveled around the world making a movie called Nomad. Um, and that's really how we became like best friends, was through that process. And we've gone to like basically every continent in the world together and filmed in like 20 different countries. And I was on this commercial shoot separately, and he was back home working quite a bit and had found out about Cosmos much earlier than I did. And he was just constantly sending messages like, "Look, man, you gotta like get in on this. Like, you have to. There's Juno and there's Adam, and there's all these things going on." And I remember I was just like, I don't understand anything that's happening on this. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what these things mean. And I'd always been involved in crypto even since kind of the early days of the Bitcoin forums, and so I'd always had a lot of interest in it, and did some Bitcoin mining and Ethereum mining and stuff. But I think after a couple of like bull and bear cycles, I felt pretty burnt out from losing everything. It was like you'd be doing really well, and then the market tanks, and you're like, oh no, that my Bitcoin mining is like worthless. Like these machines, I can't even sell them. So I wasn't paying much attention, but he was just very, very persistent on it. And when I finally got back from that shoot, he was like, look, just download this thing. It's called the Kepler Wallet. And I'm going to send you an atom. I just want you to like watch. And I was like, okay, fine. And I go through it. I'm like, I don't understand how this is on a Chrome extension. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And then he sent an atom, and 6 seconds later, it appeared in my wallet. And I was like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like I've been doing Bitcoin transactions for like 6 years. Like, and Ethereum, and I've done the like $80 gas fees and all of that. And he's like, this cost less than a cent, and it arrived in 6 seconds. That's all I knew, and I was like, okay, I'm in. Like that makes total sense. Like that's crazy. What I didn't know then was that there were all these other things that you could utilize to build technology around. And the more that I learned about that, the more interested I became specifically in Juno, because it had this layer to it where you could build applications. And I've always had this feeling about crypto that it's kind of like the early days of the internet, where it's this amazing idea with very little utility, even in the case of Bitcoin, where it was like the underlying concept is so strong, but there's not a great utility that exists there. And Bitcoin's found its own thing as kind of a store of value, and that's great. But I always wanted this utility for it to make sense. And then suddenly there's like this internet of blockchain thing happening. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like that makes a lot of sense to me. So I started out just as a delegator, like investing a lot into the Cosmos ecosystem, go out, do a shoot, put like half of my income into, a basket of assets in the Cosmos, learning about Juno, Cosmos Hub, Secret Network.
When was it?
This was in January is when I got in very heavily. I had been involved prior to that a little bit, but not in the way that, people think of it now. Like it was like, yeah, I was buying Atom on like Coinbase, but it wasn't like, I just didn't know about all the other parts of the Cosmos. Didn't really know much about validators, didn't know, I had to learn that you could even stake these assets. And then I was going, okay, well, what is proof of stake? And then I, just sort of falling down the rabbit hole and trying to understand all of the like nuances, which I think are really difficult for people who are first starting out to understand why those things even exist. Like a lot of people, I think they get to the point of staking and it just seems like magically it increases in different amounts on different chains without really understanding the underlying reasons why those things happen. And that bothered me because I didn't know why. So I really wanted to kind of get to the bottom of it. So I started talking to other validators, people who I was like, I'm staking with these guys. Maybe they'll answer my questions about how all this works, So Joe Abbey, Golden Ratio, Notional, like I had staked with all these guys because I saw them very active on Twitter, for example. And they were just so patient in explaining how things worked that I was really impressed by, like, I guess just the kindness. And that's not something I'd seen a lot of in crypto, like kindness, as silly as that sounds. And so I just pestered them for probably many months. I think they would all admit, trying to figure out, okay, well, what does a validator do, and how does that run, and what are the resources? Is it like Bitcoin mining? Is it, and next thing I knew, I was reading through all of the like Cosmos SDK stuff. I was reading through all the documentation on Juno. I was trying to, just to understand it, launch on some test nets and things like that. And I think the first thing that we did really was launched a node on Kerberos, on that meme chain, because it was like kind of a low risk thing. And we had enough between Richard and I to like get into the active set, because $200 or something, I think, at the time. And we went through the process of learning how to validate, mostly out of curiosity. And Golden Ratio would mention, he's like, look, man, it's addictive. I know you're on one chain, but the next thing you know, you got like 5 of them. And I was like, yeah, right. And I think today we're validating like 10 different chains or something like that. He was totally correct, but it moved very quickly. Like it was really, really interesting. And I think it's as surprising to me as anyone else that it's moved so quickly. And now we're pretty well involved in almost every chain that we validate, whether it's in governance or kind of trying to help drive the direction of the business development of those chains as much as possible in a positive way. But I think you're right in that, like, having a bridge between what we're doing in the blockchain space and the real world is super, super important. And that's what's going to drive like very broad adoption, is having that utility that exists, and having it be scalable is really, really important. And I think Cosmos is the best technology for that.
Mhm. Um, like because you probably understood I'm asking you how did you get into validating. It was how did you get into cinematography?
Oh, how did I get into
But it's
cinematography?
okay. We can flip it. We can flip the movie conversation till the very end, because like
Sure.
why would we disturb that? Um, you said you tried so much, but I think like you moving so fast with this, as you said, around January. A few months ago I saw you in the conversation in the private group with me and Jacob. I didn't
Hmm.
know who is this guy. I knew like you asking him something about validating, and I just like I wasn't really involved into this, but
Yeah.
I was like, held my atoms in the on Binance for over a year. Then I
Yeah.
moved to Kepler. Then I learned like slowly what's staking, which validator, and I also like, but engaging into like Twitter was probably when the Juno launched. I was like, I started tweeting, and that slowly like start picking up, but I want to ask you something, because you grew like you grew so fast, like you um and it shows something that like you know how to get around people, like, and many people who would start, they cannot do it, like, so how how were you able to get the trust of all of these entities? I guess it includes the founders of Juno and staff, like that suddenly you came and like 5 months later you are really like meaningful piece of the Juno, like I would even say spokesperson for Juno, you know.
Well, thank you. That's very kind to say. I without, I can't speak for the core team and the other validators in the space and stuff, but I think probably the biggest thing is, Richard and I have a policy, just like when we validate any
Hmm.
chain, and we started this with Juno, and it was really just that we always start out trying to find out like what's needed and wanted from the
Hmm.
community and the core developers, and then we try to help out on whatever that is, on whatever chain it may be. And I think that's different for every chain. Max brings up a great point, which is, we came in also at a time where there was something really terrible going on, which was the Terra collapse. And I think we were on a space maybe with Jacob at Notional and Jack Zampolin, and we were just talking, like nobody really had a direction forward on what to do about Terra, ourselves included. We were watching our UST LPs just dropping, to nothingness, and everybody was in this really terrible incident with no real direction. It was like, I was talking with Richard, and we're like, dude, this feels bad. Like, there's nothing that anyone can do. And I was like, we got to do something. Like, I mean, what it would be a good thing you could do? We're looking at it and was like, we should try to start a fund of some kind to like give these developers somewhere to go. Like, Juno's is the place for developers. Like, let's create a fund. And I think we brought it up on that space, and it seemed to go very well. So we put together the governance on it, and we passed that through governance. We, initially we weren't even going to be on the multi-sig. I was sort of the viewpoint of like, other people should handle this. Like, I don't know if we're the right guys to do this because we're not inherently developers. And so I think the first thing I put together was like a couple of core guys, and Putmos was actually the one that had mentioned initially, is like, look, you should be on this. If this is something that you feel passionately about, you should be on the multi-sig and you should help push that forward. So we did that and expanded it to more members, because that was some feedback from the community as well. They wanted to have like 9 people who were representing different parts of the space, so that there was a lot of viewpoints. Um, and we passed it through. We created the multi-sig on DAO, and then things just snowballed. Like, it took off, and we suddenly saw, you know, I don't think I've ever talked to so many people in the space of 4 weeks before as that time period, and I was easily spending 12 to 14 hours a day just chatting with people about moving over from Terra to Juno, and also kind of helping to coordinate projects that needed to go to other chains, because there were some projects that were made a lot more sense for Osmosis or Secret and some other spaces. So just trying to kind of help people find a home really for their projects. And the vast majority ended up on Juno because it's a really great place for builders to build, and it has a very strong community to test out their products and participate in that process. So I think that is really was the main thing, and that's even growing now. I mean, we've still got a ton of projects that are coming over and trying to navigate those waters. So it's something we actually hope to expand in the near future here into more of a Juno ecosystem growth fund, and people will probably see something on that in the coming weeks. But I think that was a big factor in just doing that. And the other thing is, obviously, we're pretty doxed. Like, I'm not hard to find. I think anyone can find me with a quick Google, and it's not just a profile picture. And we try to be real people in the space, and to be a real terminal that you can reach out to and talk to and figure things out. We don't have all of the answers, but I think it's helpful when you know who's on the other end of the line that you're actually talking to is, a real person and exists in the real world.
I think, like you said something important. Many people don't realize that you said about being fully doxed, and I think many crypto people don't realize that being fully doxed will be so beneficial to them, because the fact that you can see other person face builds such an enormous trust.
Yeah.
Personally, I hate delegating to anons.
Yeah.
Like, I want to understand who you are, and this is also why I'm doing these chats. I want to know who is there, right? I want to know who builds that, who is the person behind that. And this is also, I'm choosing the way. Like, I want to be fully I'm here. You can ask me anything. I barely know anything. um
That
you
makes two of us.
like yeah, like, are you tech savvy person? I mean, are you able to code, or you know?
Yeah. So I'm a terrible coder, but I am tech savvy. So, like, I run the majority of our infrastructure. Richard is also quite tech savvy. He handles a lot of the, like, initial setup and test nets and a lot of the maintenance stuff with myself. But
Mm-hmm,
I sort of run all of our validator nodes and
mm-hmm.
that whole network and infrastructure. There are other validators out there that are just like mad geniuses at network operations, and we're not at that level. In terms of, like, some of these guys are just incredible. Like, I see what they do, and you've got guys like Todd at
You
Block
can
Pain.
give the shout out openly. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So
Todd,
Todd at Block
yeah.
Pain, Null at King Nodes, Joe Abbey, Golden Ratio. Like, when I talk to these guys, it's pretty mind blowing, the infrastructure, and, like, even things as simple as monitoring. Like, monitoring can be very simple, or it can be really elegant. Tom at EcoStake, the guy who creates Restake and Cosmos Directory and all these amazing tools, he's like the most humble but, like, hyper technical individual that I've ever talked to in my life. And he's shown me his monitoring setup, and it's like, I mean, it's like unbelievable. And we aspire to get to the point of all of these guys, but there is a technical level that I think it's also very difficult for the community to see, that because inherently you can't, right? It's like behind a
Mm-hmm.
walled garden. It's not known to people, and there's security reasons why certain things aren't shared. You want to keep the security of your infrastructure there. But I wasn't technical about networking in and of itself when I started out. So I had never done a proof of stake node. I'd never done any of that. And I learned that over the course of about 3 months of studying. So whether it was reading things online, going through documentation on GitHub, bothering all of the other validators in the space, we spent a lot of time, like 10 hours a day, studying up on how to do it correctly. And we still do that all the time. That's part of the job is staying up to date with that and keeping up with new tools as they're being developed. Like, Todd from Block Painting created a new version of Tender Duty, which is like a monitoring program. He did that with an Osmosis grant. And then it's important to stay up to date and go, how do I incorporate this into our workflows and make sure that we do an even better job of making sure that people have a really safe place to stake with.
Yeah, like Todd from Blockplane, I actually still delegate to him, despite having my own notes. Like
Yes.
I do, but I'm slowly moving towards myself because I'm so small. Maybe
Yeah.
in the future, But like these guys are also public. They have Game of Nodes. They own podcast, and they all do amazing job. And I think it's important to say that kind of from the Juno ecosystem emerged really the best validators out there. Like the trend of running infrastructure, maybe I'm wrong, but from home, being really great and improving, that's what Juno have, like these really amazing validators, which I'm not one of them, but my partner is good. Like we don't do bare metal, hopefully, at some point. I want to actually tell you, because you broke this stereotype, so I was speaking with Josh from TED Crypto. Like he was on Kerberos. Like I'm not sure
Kerberos,
how
I
it's,
think, is the way to say it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Beatsong, but not major networks, right? And we're speaking how to get into active set. I was trying to do this with the Stargaze, where like I'm under like Bad Kids node. And he was like, like the people are very helpful till it comes to the tokens.
Yeah.
Like getting the tokens is like from them, like they will help you with everything, but
Yeah.
they will not necessarily help you with the tokens. But it changed, like I want to say, and it changed also for Josh. When you try to ask with people more and try to be more engaged, you are the example. You get a bunch of the delegations from plenty of people. um TED Crypto got delegations from, like, I think friends, and getting more support. I got support from Jacob, from Golden Ratio, Onomic, like all these guys. And but there is also the problem in it. I wonder what you think of it, because all of these guys are kind of new validators. But when it comes to the older chains, these guys are on the bottom. They can't really help you that much. How like do you have any solutions how we can overcome this, like redelegating from the bottom validator to bottom validator to help each other on the bottom, because that's
Yeah.
how what it is,
That's
like,
how it
like,
works. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's really tough. A lot of times when you're starting out and trying to get into a chain, Reese says you'll be writing code before you know it. He's probably right. Reese is awesome. Reese has created so many cool tools. We actually use some of the stuff that he's built. So shout out to
Hmm.
Reese. But I think it is problematic on some of the older chains. Like probably the best one to take an example of is Cosmos Hub. It's really difficult to get in. Even Oni is at the bottom of the set there. I think maybe 10 spots off the bottom. And we have a lot of like stake value within that. Like it's over $100,000 in stake
Hmm.
that's placed with us. But because that chain has been around so long, it's very, very, very top heavy. And a lot of the investors are long-term investors. So you can imagine they don't move their tokens around very much, and they may not even be on Twitter. So it's a very tough thing to do.
Hmm.
One of the things that can be done there is to try to convince some of the foundation members, which is a broader, maybe more controversial discussion. But having the ICF put foundation delegations towards the bottom of the set, I think, is a really important thing. And helping new validators to move up the chain, because also new validators drive innovation on a chain. And a lot of times you have these older, maybe more corporate validators, and that's fine because people like that too, but they're not necessarily contributing to the ecosystem. Whereas newer validators that enter the set tend to be inordinately more active because they're incentivized to do so, because they want to move up the ranks. And with that comes a lot of innovative ideas, right? So I think it's really, really important to do things like expanding the validator set to get new ideas in. Like it's not just about expanding, you know, the network in some way or whatever, because expanding a validator set can slow down your block times. But it's, to me, it's really about getting new viewpoints and new ideas into a space, and new people who are incentivized to innovate and contribute to that space. And a lot of times that's validators, or it's the community members that they work with directly. So I think that's one thing on these older chains is like, okay, how do we get the foundations to drive funds towards validators that are lower on the set, that are doing things that are important? You know, and even this is important. Like what you're doing with your channel is also very important. Like it drives adoption and it drives new ideas into the space. So I think that's a very, very important aspect. It's not just about code contributions to a GitHub, though that's awesome too. And that's like something that Notional has taken to heart and does a lot of important work on. But there's other things that can be incredibly important too, like governance and involvement with the community and driving new adoption into the chain, and many, many other things, creating tooling. You know, Avi had mentioned controversial but engaging central exchanges to find ways they can actually contribute to the chain. Totally. I mean, all of these things are really, really crucial to driving future expansion. And in order to get into a set at the bottom, it takes sometimes a whale coming in. Like I know it's been very controversial that, you know, you had your Atom Delegator was Takumi, which was the Juno whale that a lot of people are still upset about, and I totally get that. But at the same time, like I don't fault you for that. I think that, you know, Takumi has a metric shit ton of Atom, and if he can get you into the set and he's supporting a newer validator lower in the set, I see that individual action as a good action, right? And I
Hmm.
can separate the other things. Like that's totally fine with me. I mean, he could be one of the worst people in the world, but if he does a good thing, I want to point that out because I think it's important, especially if somebody that you don't like does something good, to acknowledge that,
Hmm.
right? Because it's a step in the right direction. Like I don't believe in just like you're an enemy forever and you're my forsworn nemesis. You know, I want to see people change. I know that people do change, so I hope that's the case. You know, I think this is a great step towards that. Um, I don't think he's a perfect guy. I don't think that the way things were handled was right. But you know, I think that's a good thing. And validators have to find ways to, uh, you know, survive for one thing and provide for their staff. Like we have, we're coming up on 4 or 5 staff. You know, so we've got to like push that forward and make sure that they're well taken care of and that we can continue doing things. We sell very little. We basically pay for infrastructure at this point. Um, Maybe less than that even. I think we're still quite out of pocket, but I think we need to make it a little bit simpler for people to enter the active set if they're truly interested and if they're good validators.
I love what you said. Like, by the way, you said about paying for the infrastructure. Today I got my, like, we started splitting our Juno and Atom rewards. It's like well, that was 12 Juno and 3 atoms, right? I staked it, but I still owe to Josh for paying for the servers because I don't want to sell the first ones because
Yeah,
if someone see I'm selling, so I'm going to sell some of my Ethereum probably and transfer it, you know, because I don't want to be chased.
yeah,
The thing about the bad guys, you know, like I know you and everyone is probably tired of Takumi. Like,
yeah,
I don't know who is. To me, he was nice. And what if at the end it ends that he's the nicest guy? Like,
yeah,
I'm not sure what his enterprise is, right? Because no one
yeah,
really truly find out what it is. And this is also important. I do know that not everyone would get the help I got, and the
yeah,
reason why I got the help, because I was probably leaning towards, his agenda. So, like, I understand that,
yeah,
but then I wanted to be active validator set on Cosmos because I'm most interested in the big chains. What do I do? Hey Takumi, I'm thinking
yeah,
to be a validator. Could you help me? That was exactly how it happened, and and he did. and I'm actually looking for a bad kit to send him as the gift, which is not even comparable, but that's something I can I can pay back, right? Like that's the. But yeah, we'll see how the situation starts. And
Yeah, look, I want to also just say I don't hate Takumi. And maybe if you look back on some of my past tweets, I mean, he may even feel that. I definitely went very, very hard on him publicly in the middle of all of that, and but at the same time, like I also want to say there's like good things too, right? So
mhm,
he brought a lot of people, a lot of Japanese people into the cosmos, like a lot. I don't know if it's as much as he claimed. I don't know because we can't. But even if it
yeah,
was 20% of what he said, that's a huge number of people.
yeah,
And ultimately, I think it will work out, and I think time
mhm,
tends to like chill things out a little bit, and I do hope we come to a better conclusion on all of that, and I think we will. But um, I do encourage people to like understand that there is exactly. So Reese is totally right. There is a massive Japanese community. The reason we know that is because, for one of our staff is Japanese, and for two, I cannot tell you how many kanji tweets I see every day from people who delegate to Oni because it's a Japanese themed validator,
mhm.
right? And we have a Japanese staff member, so
Smart.
but it was unintended. I didn't even realize how many Japanese people were in the space at all until seeing it. Was like, wow, it's this huge group of people who have no way to interact with the rest of the group. So there's like Japanese cosmos over here, and they all talk in and amongst each other, and then there's the rest of the cosmos,
Mhm,
and there's not a lot of interplay. And I'd love to see a bridge built between those two communities because they're all utilizing the same technology. And I
mhm.
think whether anybody likes it or not, Takumi may be a part of bridging that gap. Um, Takumi is like that One Piece manga. Someone who liked it can't be a bad person. Yeah. Well, the jury's out. We'll see. But anyway, I don't fault you for that. Like you got to do what you have to
Mhm,
do to get into an active set. It's tough enough as
mhm,
it is. And the only other alternative is like apathy and just going, oh,
mhm.
I guess we'll never make it. And it's like, that sucks too. To me, that's way
I'm
worse.
uh, I think it would be cool if other big validators would do the same steps that. But I'm not the only one he helped. Like as I said, I don't know if he does anything wrong. Like we had investigation. Actually, I contacted someone from Japanese community, the same as Jack, and tried to get something. I couldn't get anything. So it's
Yeah.
like it's really you can't solve the what's going on. I don't know. Some people say like I'm naive. I think the problem was actually the cultural language linguistic differences. I might be
Hmm.
naive. Many people do not believe in that. And but also Japanese community, you see these Japanese tweets, and this is like it's like looks like Cosmos English themed community and Japanese as the separate entity, like
Yeah.
because it is sort of on the with that, with the big validators, you probably follow, and I spoke to you. It's too much drama, but let's try to make it not dramatic. The Jacob from Notional
Yeah.
picks a lot of discussion considering ICF delegations.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he does this right way, like like because it seems there is a lot of I know Jacob is really great guy, but sometimes
Yeah.
from the tweets someone might get the different impression.
Yeah.
um what's your take on, because you did say the foundation, right, could maybe help. What's your take? Do you have any thoughts, or maybe you don't want to get engaged into that discussion at all?
No, no, it's fine. I'm pretty
Hmm.
involved in the discussions. I'm in most of the chats with Jacob and the ICF, and
Hmm.
um, I'm familiar with them, and I've met um, most of them in person in Austin recently. So
Hmm.
I think I love Jacob, and I think he would probably be the first to admit that he doesn't always hit the nail on the head in terms of like the best way to engage on Twitter. Um, but he is very passionate and he pursues things until they're handled, and he tends to not let go of it until it's handled,
Mm-hmm.
which I totally get. I do wish sometimes that there was maybe a little more diplomacy utilized, but that's that's my job. So I think the ICF, Interchain Foundation, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, they control a huge Atom wallet. They do foundation delegations on the Cosmos Hub. They're delegated right now to a number of people they probably shouldn't be, including, I think at some point it was a few jailed validators, as well as kind of just like random validators that no one's ever heard of, that have really high commissions and sell 100% of their commissions. It's like, what is the deal there? Like, what's the business arrangement? This doesn't make any sense. And maybe there is some business arrangement, and if they could be transparent about that, I think it would actually chill people out a lot. The problem with it is, I think as an older organization, they tend to move a little bit slower when they're making big decisions because there's more money at play. There's more probably policies internally that no one's aware about. So it can be tough to make things move along. And at a certain point, this is my view, but like, you could have the most correct viewpoint in the world, but if you're being hit with a hammer every time somebody says it to you, it can get tiring to the point where you're like, I don't care if you're right, wrong, or otherwise, I just don't want to hear it. And I think that some of the people in the ICF might feel that way. I think equally, Jacob is probably pretty tired of being hit with a hammer, for hitting people with a hammer. I think it kind of works both ways. So I've asked that we all kind of get together for a chat and just figure out a way to do this in person, because it's a lot easier face to face. So I think in Seoul at Hack Atom, there's going to be a meeting, which I know Jacob will be there. I think I have strong hopes on it, actually, and maybe I'm naive and optimistic, but I really do think that people, generally speaking, mean well and want to do good, and maybe they don't know what the best way to do that is without communicating through a lot of problems about how to do it best. But I think that we can get to a place where they have good delegation policies that can benefit people and benefit decentralization, especially with like interchain security coming onto the scene soon. I think it's going to be really important for them to have a validator set that makes sense and that it is profitable still, also, like even in the long term, even at the bottom of the set. So I think we'll get to a good point on it. I think it might take another month, maybe a month and a half, but I think we can get there.
Yeah, I did have my thoughts on it. I like how well you can form the thoughts. By the way, I think I saw somewhere in the Cosmos validators of like tens of thousands unclaimed rewards. That only shows you the level of investors. They just don't even look at this. Um, like I was thinking, because for me, I don't really like care as much, or I try to pretend I don't care about those ICF delegations. But my problem was like, if you count the fees, and you can afford other validators that are cheaper, provide the better service, and you can save a lot of money. And if you count it, it's in like annually around 200,000 atoms in the extensive fees, which is like, even at the like quite of bottom price in a year, it's like $2 million. You can
Yeah.
pay 10 people easily. It's high paid job, right? Like, that's, you are wasting money. You as the company are doing wrong. So that was my problem. Like, why you don't try to, because your business as the company should be get as much money. Like, you function, you need money to spend it. If you have 2 million extra, you can put some extra development. And that was something I
I
couldn't
mean,
understand.
that would have
Yeah,
paid for example, this new interchain
exactly.
security thing that they wanted to do.
Hmm.
So I agree with you. I think it's important to be, that's fiscal responsibility. I know that's not a
Hmm.
sexy word, but it's like you have a huge resource. And I think the drama is really about the fact that people just want them to use it well. Like it's
Yeah.
a resource they have. They just want people want them to use it intelligently, and I'm
Hmm.
sure they want to use it intelligently too. So whatever is blocking that and whatever stopping them from using that intelligently or whatever they need to use it intelligently, that's what we want to provide. That's it.
Hmm.
Like I just want to unstick whatever the barrier is.
Yeah, I agree that fiscal responsibility is the sexiest word. I do like it. I'm all like I'm all about fiscal responsibility. Although I make personally a lot of bad decisions. I was thinking maybe these delegations happened early on. Like, when the chain launches, the proof of stake wasn't as popular. It was like, hey, this delegation is for you. Make sure your infrastructure keep running. Maybe
Yeah.
that was the case, and they didn't redelegate since
Yeah,
then. Like
and
hard to.
they don't have great multi-sig management tools. Like on Juno, we have
Hmm.
DAO DAO. It makes it like easy. You know, on the Cosmos Hub, it's not that simple. And I know that's
Hmm.
like sounds like a silly excuse, but it is real in that it's tough to like push through a multi-sig transaction on the Cosmos
Hmm.
Hub. Like it just is hard.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's something that needs to be figured out a little more easily, and maybe there's things that we can do to help smooth that process. And
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, it's like there's clearly something, like a thing unknown to everybody, that is stopping the process. And I don't
Hmm.
know what that thing is. And like we need to figure out whatever the actual barrier is that is sticking the whole situation. And it's almost
Hmm.
always like one thing. It's like someone's consideration, or someone's, lost their wallet key and nobody wants to say it, or something. There's always like a thing that is making it very tricky. So I hope through chatting about it, with maybe a sprinkling of diplomacy, that we can get to the bottom of whatever that is and unstick it. And
Hmm.
perhaps there's agreements or contracts that we don't know
Yeah,
about.
sure.
And that's totally possible. We wouldn't know until they disclose that. And if that is the case, that's actually totally fine. But just make it known to the community that that is the case.
Hmm. Like this is also like going public, with the faces or everything you do will help. Like if they would come out of this, people would be like, oh, okay, that explains things, instead of like trying to make all that drama. Like Josh was saying, like about like you getting into Cosmos, and I guess I understand your partner was shilling you Cosmos, but there is like so many other great chains, very scalable. Solana, Near, so well funded, you know, and like despite that, you came to Cosmos and mainly Juno. I think, could we say, like, is Juno your major venture? I'm not
Yeah,
sure,
I would
but
say Juno is, I'll put it this way, Juno is personally my largest investment.
Mhm.
So
So why
I
this?
why did I come to Cosmos instead of like other blockchains or something
Hmm.
like that?
Hmm.
I like the fact that Cosmos aims to scale horizontally, right? So
Hmm.
like having thousands of blockchains that each have their own use cases and abilities, to me reminds me a lot of like how the web was formed. Like I think that for a long time in the beginning, people were scaling things vertically, like, which is how Ethereum does things in the early days of the internet, where it was like, okay, we've got this building, we want to talk to the third floor, we're going to run wires up there. And it was like a very basic form of internet. And the moment that we ditched that and created this like worldwide network, then things took off. And the Cosmos is the first one where I've seen basically a chain take this incredibly valuable technology, open source it, and let everybody run with it. And the underlying technology has become the most valuable part of it. It's not necessarily the Cosmos Hub, though it
Hmm.
captures a lot of value, but it's the technology that it's built on that is the most valuable thing. And I just love that horizontal scaling solution. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's probably the only way to actually scale a blockchain, is to have a lot of
Hmm.
blockchains that can talk to each other. And that simple fact was the thing that made me choose Cosmos over anything else.
I
I
wonder what
wonder what
I can hear myself.
Oh,
Uh,
I don't.
the because you have not headphones, so sometimes like, it's okay now. Because you are not from this. I feel, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Like you are not really like trader, finance guy. As we established at the like early on, you are creative. What's the what's the fulfillment you are getting, or what you're like, what you personally looking for here on on Juno? Like, I get you getting it fulfilled when you make the good, um let's say, video, the art piece, but what's there for you in Juno? Is this just financial motives? Also, are you doing it full time now, or how it works?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's like, what is the fulfillment? I think it's just seeing things work. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think, of course, everyone to some extent is in this space because there's a financial upside. Um, but, you know, like I've basically only been buying since we got into this. Like I've mostly invested. Um, not always well. Like you're saying, I'm not a trader, and I think that's evidenced by my buying activities in the past. Bought plenty of Juno at $45. Plenty of Atom at the top as well. Like I bought dollar cost average all the way up and all the
Mm-hmm.
way down, and it's still going. But I was always a bad trader, so I just don't. Um, I just kind of invest very steadily in all of the tokens that I think make sense, which is basically all the chains we validate. Um, you know, I think there is a financial upside, but oddly enough, it's like it's just enough that it allows us to keep working on it and it doesn't cost us. So I think that's not really the motivating factor. I like the community. Like I really like the community of people. I love learning about like the development side of things, which I think is really, really interesting. And in a way, it is kind of its own art, right? So like developing an application that is beautiful and like really well executed, I think is an art. It's there's a lot of development that goes into that, but like if you look at like the front page of DAO, I look at that, I'm like, oh, every time I sign in, like this looks so cool. Like I love that. Osmosis has like great artwork. I think that's so cool. So like for me right now, like my goal is to kind of help build some tooling around governance. That's kind of the next project that we're taking on at Oni, is to sort of like help fix a couple of governance things. And we're sort of building an app around that that'll be built on Juno. So that's like an initial goal. And I just am also quite passionate about governance on the whole. But also, I want to bring more art into the space. Like, I want to bring more artists into the space. I want to do more like really cool marketing stuff. I want to have like incredible commercial videos because I think it's really fun to make them. But I also think it helps a lot, and it's something I've seen a lot of other successful blockchains do. So I want to like bring artists into the cosmos and into Juno. It's not just Juno. Like artists will find their homes, and I want to see like what the secret artists look like and what the osmosis artists look like and what the Juno artists look like. Like I want to just bring more people into that space on the whole, and I want to like help artists to be able to create things, and whether that's NFTs, which I think are awesome, or whether it's commercials for different blockchains and different applications. Like I just want to make it cooler.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually thinking, like, because you are a filmmaker, right? Like, so I'm trying to think, is there something maybe with DAOs that you can actually like create, or you can fund your ventures, right? Like not sure where were you thinking about exploring this? Because like let me like, I love the well love I like the author movies, right? Like, so let's say, let's go, is this festival Sundance
Yeah,
Film Festival, which you have like small budget films, independent cinema. And I think like it's harder and harder to actually fund this sort of movies because they don't really make money.
yeah.
Is there something that you see could be possible with, like, let's say Juno? Like, could you create production company of independent movies and make it self-funded somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you can. And Kevin Smith has already kind of started doing that with his film. Oh, thank you,
Mhm.
BD. I appreciate that. Kevin Smith has already started doing that with, I think, Kilroy on Secret Network. Like, he has
Mhm.
a bunch of NFT owners, and they each kind of have a piece of that film. I don't know if it's actual ownership, but yes, and that is something that I want to do. Is I want to create a DAO that can help fund artists and give people ownership in the art that's created. Like, I think it would be so cool if you could fund a film and everyone who helps fund that is an owner in the project, and that's something that we do in film all the time. Like, when I shoot a film, I typically own, we call it points, right? So you own a certain percentage of that movie if it gets sold, and you get
Mhm.
royalties based on that. I think that would be so cool to like be able to tokenize that in some fashion through DAO and have it so that people can, and you have to have a very high bar. Like, it can't just be someone coming in who's like, I, have this idea and I've never made anything, but like, where serious artists can come in and fund something independently that everybody really believes in. And then the people who believe in that have a share in the ownership of that actual product. I think that'd
Mhm.
be awesome.
Yeah, like this DAO as the film production company, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, and just people can fund it. It seems so easy to raise money in crypto, you
Yeah.
know. Do you think to fund some of your stuff this way? Do you plan on this?
I think I would rather focus on funding other people's stuff
Mm-hmm.
because most of our stuff is funded. And I think maybe it's better if like we're going to build a tool that we don't use it necessarily for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. Like, I'd like to enable other artists. Like, I've
Mm-hmm.
been very fortunate in my career to like have a lot of resources to make movies and do things like that. So I kind of want to enable other artists to do that. That's probably more
Mm-hmm.
my focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm asking because like I'm also trying to find out if there is something more to crypto than like DeFi, because DeFi is the big one, right? But many people says like there will be nothing more than this. There is Bitcoin, DeFi, and there is nothing more. So speaking of Juno, there is a lot of applications coming, right? I wonder if you can give like speak of some applications, and that can include DeFi, about like, hey, this is something that is really cool being built on Juno, because there is a lot coming from Terra and stuff. And if you can maybe also give us argument why is it even good.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to even remember all of them, but there is a ton of DeFi stuff, right? So you've got Cato that's coming into the space. That's an on
Mhm.
ramp, right, to bring fiat into Juno, which I think is great.
And
You have
help me to understand, like, I will be stopping. So it means with like the let's say the credit card or debit card, I can
Mhm.
purchase the crypto directly.
Yeah. So you
Juno
skip the
directly.
whole, yeah, you skip the whole
Hmm.
Coinbase thing or
Hmm.
Binance, right?
Hmm.
Basically, Cato, you swipe your card,
Hmm.
right? You pay a small fee, just like you would on a central exchange, and it goes straight into your Kepler wallet, whatever you got. So I think they're starting with Juno's USDC.
Hmm.
That's the simplest thing, which you can then swap for Juno or whatever you want. But it
Hmm.
goes straight into your wallet. You skip the whole this central exchange to Cosmos Hub
Hmm.
to Juno on a Osmosis or Juno swap and
Hmm.
all of that shit. That's very difficult. It's just a straight line, and they're going to integrate with Leap Wallet as well as a number of others. Leap Wallet was another one that we funded, and Leap Wallet is building out like a super wallet that's
Hmm.
amazing. People are going to love it. It's really, really cool, actually. So literally in the wallet, there's an on ramp. You put in your data, boom, it arrives in that same wallet, and it like simplifies the process enormously.
Hmm. Hmm. Other apps.
Yeah, so there's Cato, obviously Loop Finance. They're doing an NFT marketplace, a DEX, DEX aggregator. They're also working on a couple other interesting tools like
But
Launchpad.
do we need that? We have JunoSwap.
Yes. So the difference is that with Loop, they're building a DEX and DEX aggregator. So it's
Mm-hmm.
going to aggregate JunoSwap being one of them, but all of the DEXs across the Cosmos and give people whatever the current best swap
Oh,
fees
okay. Yeah,
are.
yeah.
So it's like basically you don't have to then go off to a bunch of different places to try to
Mm-hmm.
find, how to save 30 cents on a transaction or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be pretty useful in that regard. And they're also doing a lot with NFT staking, which I won't pretend
Mm-hmm.
to completely understand, but I know that their DEX has a lot to do with integrating NFTs. So I don't know exactly how that'll work. I'm sure they're going to release some really cool videos on that, but that's another protocol that's coming over.
Mm-hmm.
Margins, which allows leverage trading, which is something I definitely don't mess around with personally, because I know myself and I would
But
do
you
terrible.
will once you have opportunity. It's right.
Yeah, I've stayed away from it because I've like, well, I already make bad trading decisions. Imagine if somebody let me
Mm-hmm.
make orders of magnitude worse. Um, so I think that that's going to be really cool for some who want to do leverage trading. Hal social media platform, I think that's awesome. Um,
Did you
fan
use the testnet of how social? Maybe did you check how it looks?
No, I have not yet. I've been completely closed off from it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a total surprise to me. I'm looking forward to
Okay.
it. But,
Mm-hmm.
don't tell Callum and everybody. I haven't seen it yet.
I oh let's and after that we can continue with the apps.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Don't
prop nine
really, yeah, I don't really
is
have a viewpoint on it. I read through it. It's so complicated. Like running a Dex is really, really tough. I think that JunoSwap needs to do a lot to compete as a DEX, and I think it needs to like change some things around to revitalize it.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I think the JunoSwap team is very much already working on that. I think it would benefit a lot from like the team maybe having a bit more autonomy to like move around incentives to pools that really matter. Like the Juno USDC pool is going to be super, super important in the future once we have this on ramp. Like, we need to have a lot of USDC liquidity. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important that we're able to incentivize that pool strongly for people. Um, and I think also we have a lot of incentives that were locked up in Juno Swap, which, at the time I think was like 3 million Juno, and we've been having some discussions about like how to best utilize funding in general and the community pool. And, you know, we've just got to kind of figure out like the most frugal, fiscally responsible way forward with all of the existing incentives and things. Because sometimes you can over incentivize a DEX
Mm-hmm.
and kind of almost, it's like overwatering a plant, right? It can kill it too. Um, so that's why we're seeing on osmosis, they're bringing incentives down. They're being more conservative on stuff. They're just pushing it towards the pools that really matter in a bear market. Like, you have to weather the storm. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't really have a big thing on the no more lockup period. I think probably that whole mechanism could do with like tweaking to make it a little more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
That's my, but I don't know if
So
I would kill it.
I wanted to say I'm not the member of RawDAO. Um, and I only know that part of that is removing the 14-day unbonding period, and it seems like it's not gonna pass as of now. If I would be part of it, as I would vote in favor, and I think unbonding period is just so cool and makes people want to provide liquidity. Of course, it will crash your APR down if you are brave here to bond it for 2 weeks, but overall I think there is maybe net benefit, but I'm not part of the raw DAO. I have no vote in there, so it's irrelevant. Any other cool apps we have? How social last time?
Yeah, Hal Social. We've got Talus Marketplace, which is another NFT marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Eclipse Launchpad, which is a launch pad for Juno to bring new protocols
Mm-hmm.
on. So in a few hours, I'm going to be doing a space with them. They're going to be launching very soon, which I think is actually really exciting. I think we're going to be getting liquid staking with Pupmos, and I've also heard that Quicksilver, which is another chain, is going to be bringing liquid staking. So some liquid staking options, which are really cool.
But Quicksilver is on the hub, right? Will be consumer chain on the hub, or maybe they decided to go on Juno now.
They're going to be doing their own chain, but they're going to be
Oh,
launching with Juno first. So they've got, I think, a
okay.
couple of tokens that are their Genesis tokens because we recently upgraded the software, so we have interchain accounts. So I think Quicksilver Juno is one of the first targeted liquid
Mm-hmm.
staking. So you'd expect to see Q Juno out the gate. I don't think they're doing interchain security out the gate with the hub anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Um, do you think Juno tried to compete with the hub or not?
I mean, I'll give you. Well, I'm not going to give you the PR answer. I'll give you the real answer,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is that every chain competes with every chain in some extent. Like we can pretend all day that like there's a perfect harmony between all these chains and there's like no competition, but there is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, Kepler Wallet did not integrate Juno Swap because they were largely integrated with Osmosis and it was a conflict of interest. Like, why would they want another
Mm-hmm.
DEX in the wallet? The only reason they really started updating their stuff is because other competitors in the space came in, like Leap Wallet and some of these others that are building very fast, and they know they have to, or they're going to get completely eaten up. Like you have to innovate, or you become irrelevant in this space. So now they're finally making some changes, which I think is awesome. And they finally integrated JunoSwap because I think they didn't have any other choice. But there is competition amongst chains. So does Juno compete with the Cosmos Hub? I mean, kind of, yes, in a way, because it can do everything that the hub can do and a lot more. But there's a lot more economic lockup on the Cosmos Hub, right? So billions of dollars are there, which makes it
Mm-hmm.
a pretty good choice for interchain security. So I think there's healthy competition. I don't think it's like a direct competitor in any way. Like, I don't think it's like we're going to try to eat your lunch or anything like that. But I think there's enough competition to drive innovation, and that's what I want to see. I
Mm-hmm.
just want to see enough
Mm-hmm.
that it's like, okay, like if Osmosis doesn't do a lot of stuff with their decks, like this one's gonna take some of their users, so they got to like innovate on some new stuff, and vice versa. I think if there's other Cosmwasm chains that are out there, like Neutron, that's gonna drive us to innovate on Juno and do new things. So, um,
Would there be conflict of interest? So, for example, like you are the Juno guy at heart, right? But you
yeah,
you do validate Juno and Cosmos. Could there be the conflict of interest that you, like, let's say, selling your atom rewards towards Juno because that's where your main business is? Because I believe the validator role is like, hey, like, actually, if you validate the chain, you have to vote kind of 100% for the benefit of this chain, not the other one. But could you use your validator node as the competition, for the other network? And yeah.
yeah. It's a funny question. I mean, it can there be a conflict of interest? The answer is obviously like yes, totally. I think that that's for sure the case, that there can be. We try not to. So like when
Mhm.
we're voting in particular, we wear the hat of the chain that we're validating. So like as a Cosmos Hub validator, we voted yes on the proposal for interchain security being brought to market with
Mhm.
the Neutron, though it honestly is a competitor, at least on the DeFi side of things, to Juno. And like if I was
Mhm.
wearing both hats, I would be like, nah, I don't like this chain. I don't want it to get funded because it could take some, users away from Juno maybe or something like that. So, but we vote based on our hat as a validator on that chain. I think it's pretty obvious if people don't do that. As far as like selling rewards to fund one node or another, like totally, you move things around where it makes sense. Right now we're quite low on the Cosmos Hub, so we do direct rewards towards building up our self bond on Cosmos Hub, because it's also just relatively low compared to other networks that we've been on longer. So like we have a big self bond on Juno. So we kind of allocate things towards the networks where we maybe don't have as much of a self bond to try to build that up. But as far as voting, theoretically, totally there could be conflicts of interest, but we do our best not to have those.
Yeah, like from my side, I do try to vote like in the best interest of this chain. Like like I'm validator on Juno. Like if there is prob that benefits Juno, I will vote yes. If there is prob that affects Juno negatively, and the same on Cosmos. And I will have to stay kind of like try to stay objective in that, because I will cheer for Cosmos and I will cheer for Juno. If they both compete with each other, I kind of like will be supplying weapons to both sides, right? Like that's like we covered quite a lot of crypto. Kevin, you are a self-taught filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
How did you get into this? How did you even like learn operating camera and like develop the love uh you know for movies?
Yeah, I mean, I started out as a photographer. Like, I just started out taking photos of, like, bands and, like, musicians in Florida when I was a kid. And I was just fascinated by the fact that you could meet people more easily if you were a photographer. Like, I saw that there
Hmm.
were photographers that would go out on these cool trips and, meet cool people, and for me, it was just a way to, like, get to know people. And eventually DSLRs, you know, cameras like small consumer cameras, started to be able to shoot video, and it very quickly like started to snowball, and I started traveling a lot around the world taking photos, and I started doing a little bit of video, and then I was like, God, the video thing is even more fun. So I just started studying. Like, I went to all of the bookstores I could find in Los Angeles and bought like a bunch of secondhand books that film students had sold after they like quit college. And I spent like the better part of 5 months just studying again, like 12 hours a day, uh, to understand lighting and camera and kind of classic cinematography, and uh, sort of volunteering to go onto sets and see how other people do it, and getting coffee for people, and sort of taking any job I could find, regardless of whether I was qualified or not. It was just like the answer was always yes. I was like, hey, do you want to help out on some films? Like, yeah, I don't even care what it is. I'll drive trucks. I'll, unload equipment. I'll get you coffee. Like, I just want to see how people are making this cool stuff. Um, so I spent a lot of time just as what's called a production assistant, which is like the lowest
Hmm.
position on the chart.
Hmm.
And I learned a little bit about cameras and lighting, and I bought a camera. I took out a big loan, and like bought what's called a red camera,
Oh
which is
wow, yeah.
yeah, which was sort of my first like real camera. And the director of this movie that you're playing actually right now, before we ever made this movie, he told me, okay, cool. Like, I've got this project. I don't know if you'd want to do it. And, but it'd be a chance to like shoot some stuff instead of just like helping out on set, and you
Hmm.
could kind of like see how it goes. And we just need to go film water around the world. I was like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I think the budget was like, $8,000 or something. And I found out you could book a round the world ticket for like $6,000 if you did it a really special way. And it didn't matter how many stops you took. So I took $8,000 and like stretched it over 47 days and filmed in 9 different countries,
Hmm.
and spent like every single penny. I didn't make anything, but I came back with all of this footage with this new camera that I got, and they were pretty blown away. And I didn't know it, but at the time they were preparing for this movie called In Search of Fellini, which
Hmm.
was kind of the first Netflix film. And we shot that in Italy, and it was incredible. It was the first like official movie that I ever shot with that director, and we filmed it in 2016. Nancy
Mhm.
Cartwright was the writer. She's the voice of Bart Simpson, and it was, it was kind of my first real experience on a film set with a crew running
Mhm.
like 50 people
Yeah.
to do camera and lighting and all of that stuff. It was pretty wild, and I was like 22 at the time.
Were you the main cinematographer or camera operator?
Cinematographer and camera operator. So I
Oh,
had a steady cam operator, but if it wasn't on the steady cam, I typically operate camera.
because there is the guy responsible for the right, and there is always the guy who sits with the camera as well.
For me, it's both. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like operating as well. So I usually don't
Oh
have
yeah, director of photography. You were actually director of photography of this movie. Wow.
yeah.
That's because I thought like I would be impressed if you would just be camera operator, right? But you are director of the photography. Like that's really cool. Poland has actually big history of the directors of photography. Like
Janusz Kaminski.
Janusz Kaminski, the Spielberg guy. He actually didn't study in Poland because he left when he was 20. But yeah, two Oscars, right?
Yeah.
Wolski is the uh,
Dariusz Wolski.
that is like from Tim Burton, right? The Pulp Fiction operator was the Sekua. Like I would find plenty, but the
Yeah,
Polish people are behind camera. So like this is
it's
like
true.
we are like
It's well known that the Polish are like heavily involved in cinematography. Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome.
So
There's a bunch of film school people in here. Like Austin's in Florida. I'm very
yeah.
close to Tampa, Austin. I would love to catch up. Feel free to
Mhm.
message me on Twitter. And went to USF. I've been to USF. Max
Yeah.
says he went to, wow, there's so many filmmakers in the cosmos, and I never knew this. But I think
Mhm.
there's a lot that are in hiding. So did you ever go to Los Angeles Film School? I
Mhm.
did go to Los Angeles Film School, Max. I didn't get accepted, but I went in and I applied and didn't have enough academic acumen to go to LA Film School. The director that I worked with a lot, that I shot those movies with, was one of the youngest graduates of the LA Film School. So I went
Mhm.
there trying to get in, didn't get in, and but I do go to a lot of film schools, and I sometimes speak at um, film programs and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I did try. Like I told you last time, I tried to get to film school 3 times. It was in Łódź, was the popular where Polański go. Like I tried to the other one in the city called Katowice. It's like Kieślowski, he's famous director, but mainly locally. And I wasn't accepted 3 times, 3 years. I tried, right? So then, like my career kind of took different path. I become actually image post production artist. I'm retoucher. I'm kind of
Oh,
quitting this toward the yeah. I actually prepared to show you like I'm like now I'm pretty much full time crypto, so you can see my portfolio is not really updated for a long time.
oh
But yeah,
wow!
I do retouch for like fashion. That's what I used to do,
I
and I
know that
teach.
girl, Georgia Fowler.
Sorry.
I know that girl, Georgia
Georgia
Fowler.
Fowler. Yeah, I was. Yeah, so
I
like was
actually know that
retouching that
shot.
for.
That's so funny.
Oh, the Caleb and Gladys are photographers. I used to do a
Yeah,
lot with them. I got so much in crypto, I'm horrible. I pretty much sometimes stopped responding to the emails, and that's how I start losing the. But I'm retoucher. Like I'm actually like post production artist. So like I'm creative. Like I
yeah,
didn't go the film route, but I got into Photoshop retouching. And I also I saw you teach lighting. I do teach Photoshop for example. Um but yeah, I didn't get to film school, and the reason I wanted to go there, because if you don't have any, like I didn't have any money, and what film school provides you, and I think maybe that's like where good cinematographers come from here, they give you the equipment, and a lot of equipment is actually 35 millimeters heavy camera, so the students actually work on that shit.
yeah,
And so that's on the one way to do the short form movies, go to festivals, and maybe um establish your name. And you did this Nomad, the film, right? Like
yeah. No, Nomad is
what is
really
it? Is it out or what's going on here?
It's not out yet. I've been
Mm-hmm.
working on this as a cinematographer for about 4 years now. Um, it's an independent film. There's no
Mm-hmm.
CGI or VFX anywhere in the film. It's breaking a number of world records. So the most countries ever filmed in for a narrative film,
Mm-hmm.
the most continents, so all 7 continents. Um, and yeah, I think we're actually over 26 countries now. But it's all practical. There's no
Mm-hmm.
visual effects anywhere in the film. That no green screen. So it's very tough. So like when you see an elephant, it's because I'm sitting there filming an elephant. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you see, you know, a massive forest fire, it's because I went in with a crew of people and actually filmed in a real forest fire. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's been a pretty crazy experience. That's actually Richard in that photo, by the way.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
that's in Rio. He met his wife
Mm-hmm.
that
Is
night.
it? Oh, that's so nice. Is it documentary movie maybe, or
No,
it's
it's a narrative film. Like it's a
right,
proper film.
right. So that's your biggest project right now that
Yes,
you working on.
absolutely.
Um, some other girl from South Africa. I met her in South Africa. She follows that film.
Oh,
Maybe
cool. Yeah,
some around.
we
You
filmed
know
in
her?
South Africa quite a bit. I
Yeah.
don't know her,
Um.
but
I like you were in South Africa. I visited South Africa. Amazing place.
yeah,
I actually wanted to ask you, like, what do you have the favorite place maybe that you've been to?
that's a tough one. You know, I haven't been to Poland yet, so I can't say that. But
Feel
I would have to.
invited.
Thank you, thank you. I'll certainly come visit. I think probably India, actually, which I know is not a common response, but I love India. Yeah, I know. I've been told I got a Post Malone look. Um, less face tattoos. But yeah, I love India. Like I don't know, something about it. I don't know. It's just a beautiful place to me. I love the food. I love the people. I love how old and unchanged it is and how kind people are. And
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know something about it. I'd say India, and then obviously going to Antarctica was a pretty crazy experience.
Oh, Antarctica. Yeah, like I was seeing the COVID started. The world was in the quarantine while Kevin Garrison was in India. That's that was like
It was actually right after that. We were in
yeah.
Antarctica getting
All
satellite
right.
faxes, and it was like at a certain point we were the last continent that had no COVID cases in
Oh
Antarctica. We're like on this boat, and we're like, when we get back, is like everybody going to be a zombie? Like, what's going on?
yeah. It was
Uh,
there was different time, like it was like worrisome, right? You didn't
yeah,
really like, now it's obviously everyone look at this a little bit different, you know.
yeah,
I haven't had chance to be in India yet, like but I did,
it's
like I do try to travel, you know, because I used to live in Asia, so like there was a lot of um nearby Sri Lanka. I'm not sure if you've been, like it's quite similar, I guess, but it's far from my favorite. But I'm like, I don't like this kind of dirt and hassle. So maybe, like, you know, different. Like I'm
I like the dirt and hassle. I don't know. Maybe I'm
yeah.
weird.
Well, I mean, you just enjoy living. You can say that from like looking at you, right? Favorite movies.
My favorite movie, and the movie that kind of made me become a filmmaker, was Interstellar
Oh
by
wow,
Christopher
yeah,
Nolan. There was something
yeah, yeah.
about that story that just really moved me. I was shooting like a really kind of great but super cheesy vampire comedy movie in
Mhm.
Michigan when I was much younger, and I remember we went and saw that movie, and I like it rocked my world. I just went outside and I like laid in the snow and like looked at the stars, and I was like, that was insane. Like it makes you
Yeah,
want to like go out and explore the universe. And I just thought that was so cool. And I was like, wow, storytelling is like a big deal. And
yeah.
that movie impacted me the most.
Yeah, Interstellar. I love this movie. I love Matthew. Like I love his acting. I wonder if it's my favorite Nolan movie, but like I would say it's for me because I'm not into like. I mean, that was large movie, but maybe one of. I think I actually watched all Nolan movies, including the like Memento or something, the early ones.
Memento is
Like
amazing.
I was obsessed. Like I did watch a lot, but yeah, I love Interstellar. Any other movies you do like had big influence on you?
Interstellar was a really big one. Memento too, actually. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think Nolan was a big one. But in terms of like cinematography, there's a cinematographer named Roger Deakins who his work probably impacted me the most.
Mm-hmm.
So he's done a lot of work with the Coen brothers. So he like did The Big Lebowski. Skyfall was another one. Like Skyfall was the
Mm-hmm.
first movie that I was like, wow, there's something to this. Like I want to like this style is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Sicario is another one that Deacon shot that I thought was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Blade Runner 2049 is like mind
Oh yeah,
blowing.
yeah,
Uh,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah, and most recently, the newest Top Gun, which Claudio Miranda shot, is like insane. I've just
I
saw
I
it in
haven't
IMAX.
seen. I haven't seen. Need to go to the
It's gonna
cinema.
rock your world, dude. Like
Yeah,
it
need to.
is, it's incredible. Like the cinematography in that is mind blowing.
That's where you plan your career? Do you want to be like cinematographer? Do you or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's sort of been my life since I was
Mm-hmm.
18 is making films. So, I think like on the other side of things, aside from crypto, definitely like that is where most of my life focuses. But it is interesting because even when I'm on set, like everyone on set knows about what I do in the cosmos. Like they
Mm-hmm.
all have
Mm-hmm.
Kepler wallets. They've all got stuff staked, like it's no secret at all. So I don't know. I think there's going to be some sort of interesting merger between these two worlds, and I don't even know what it is yet. But I just feel that that may be the case.
You do believe that the like crypto is not necessarily just for the finance developers, but it's place for creatives.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to like the early days of the internet, where there wasn't a lot of space for, like, there was a point where it was like, oh, you can upload photos. That's crazy,
Hmm.
like it was
Yeah.
just a means for people to get good stock updates and stuff. Like it was just traders and stuff. Like before anyone, Wall Street was using the internet and computers like to make money, and that's how it is with crypto
Hmm.
right now. So later you find the other utility cases and ways to do things, and I think that that's where the art will enter in. And now you think about it, and the internet is used mostly for art and like sharing cool photos and Instagram and TikTok and all this shit. Like it's gone almost the complete opposite direction,
Hmm.
and you eventually find balance. But I think it's going to lean very heavily into use cases outside of DeFi very soon.
Thank you. That makes me more bullish and more hopeful. And if you do try to do something like regarding film on Juno, like I'd love to be part of it. Like just like if you try
Absolutely.
to build people, because that's something I'd be more interested. By the way, the creator of the Bad Kids, he's also a filmmaker. He did study in film school actually, and he did some movie. Like the guy behind Bad Kids, the NFT on Stargaze. So he's actually also the aspiring film director.
Wow,
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I need to find the film, and I will send you. I still haven't watched the film. Like it was just short form film, So there is a like a lot of cool people that I meet and connect. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's the right spot to finish it. Like
cool.
we touched on some things. If you want to add something, shield yourself, or like something that people you wish maybe people would do more or understand better.
I think, I guess just I won't shill us. I will shill you. I think that people
Thank you.
should stake with your validator. you're new in these sets and climbing up quickly, which I think is awesome. If you're watching this channel and you're not staking with Don Kryptonium, that's probably pretty silly. So, get in there. It always helps early getting into a set to have a lot of community support. So I will show your new validator and congratulate you on entering the set. And I would just say in the future, I hope to see more tools for people to select validators, like to get a better idea of who their validators are. Cool ways to look at things like uptime that people can understand easily. Maybe I can convince you to do a video on that. And
I'd love
then,
to,
yeah, I guess, if anything, I think we've got some governance coming soon on the Juno Ecosystem Growth Fund. So vote on that when you see it. I won't tell you how to vote, just vote. And yeah, more stuff coming.
Thank you for shilling me. I do have to pay back. Like that's actually too nice. But I wasn't convinced at the start. Maybe just because I didn't know you. But I do think the person like you, like Juno was in quite bad spot maybe at some point, and the fact that you came with your abilities to speak, to advertise, and connect people was such a missing piece of Juno. That's actually so important. Like you are the spokesperson, and I think that's amazing that like you actually entered this chain. And I think many Juno people will owe you a lot of development that is happening. So
Thank you
um,
very much. I
thank you
appreciate it.
for this chat, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
You as well. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And this was fun.
Thank you. Take care.